A number of British politicians insist the British Prime Minister broke the law and lied about it, especially opposition Labour Party leader Keir Starmer. British Conservative Party chairman Oliver Dowden does not believe the Prime Minister should resign, but says he must address the culture within his government that resulted in multiple staff gatherings at his residence during the coronavirus lockdown.
I think he broke the law. I think he's as good as admitted that he broke the law. And after all, Downing Street has now apologised to the Queen for some of the parties that have gone on. And I know that the government's holding position is let's all wait for the Sue Gray report. But I think it's pretty obvious what's happened. There's industrial scale partying that's been going on at Downing Street. Not much of it is really denied. And I think that the public have made up their mind. I think the facts speak for themselves. I think the Prime Minister broke the law. I think he then lied about what had happened.
It's important that there is a full investigation into all of the facts, and that's why the Prime Minister set this up. But I would also say, and that I completely appreciate your underlying point on all of this, this event was totally wrong. It shouldn't have happened. The Prime Minister has rightly apologised for it. People feel angry about what's been going on in Downing Street. I feel angry about what's going on in Downing Street. But the correct process now is to get to the full facts and then for the Prime Minister to appear before Parliament, which he will do, and to be held to account. But I can assure you the Prime Minister is both very contrite and deeply apologetic for what happened, but also, more importantly, is determined to make sure that this can't be allowed to happen, and that we address the underlying culture.
Our Britons have been watching the whole scenario play out and also have mixed reactions. Joining me now is the President, Central Association of Nigerians in the United Kingdom, the Umbrella Association serving the collective interests of Nigerian associations, unions, societies, and groups in the United Kingdom, Mr. Ayo Akinfe. He joins me from London. Thank you for joining me on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you very much.
Are you also of the opinion that the British Prime Minister should resign because of those parties that held at number 10?
Well, to be honest, I think his position has become untenable. The British authorities have been very, very robust in enforcing the restrictions and the guidelines. Once he's been found to be breaching them, I really don't see how we can get out of it. It's a case of, Britain's been built up on the basis of there's one law for everybody, whoever you are. So, it's going to be hard for him to escape resigning.
And how would you rate Mr. Johnson's leadership during the pandemic?
Well, it's been hit and miss, to be honest. There have been some things that got totally wrong. There have been some things they've been very robust on. And to be honest, they were learning as they were going along. So, it wasn't plain sailing by any stretch of the imagination. But at least the one good thing I would give the government was they were actually listening to the scientists and they were letting the science determine policy. So in the main, they have listened to the scientists. So, probably give you, I don't know, 5 out of 10.
I know that it is important to note that Mr. Johnson remains a popular politician in the UK right now, though some say he may not be forced to resign because it does not have a successor. You think that's correct?
I don't think that's got anything to do with it. If you break the law, you break the law. That's the nature of British legal society. That's the way British society runs. The health secretary was found to have breached the guidelines and he was asked to resign. If Mr. Johnson has to resign, the British politics is robust enough to throw up a successor. The Conservatives in the House of Commons will have a leadership contest. They will come up with somebody else and someone will take over. So I don't think that's not a valid argument. British politics has never held still because there's no successor to a sitting prime minister. Even during World War II, Winston Churchill had he faced something like 4 or 5 votes of confidence, and there wasn't a successor. So I don't think that's the issue.
So what is the issue for you?
Well, to be honest, the issue is it justifiable for the Prime Minister to remain in office or to go unsanctioned when those who breached guidelines were punished heavily. People were fined very heavily. If you were caught having a party or throwing a party during a lockdown, you paid fines of sometimes up to £10,000. Now, if the Prime Minister is making those laws and enforcing those laws, the issue is, should he be exempt from the same kind of punishment everybody else is? I think that's the issue.
Yeah, and it's looking like he might be going scot-free. He has Oliver Dowden in Parliament, who one of his ministers who's been fighting really hard for the Prime Minister to stay on. He did acknowledge the Prime Minister did make a mistake, but he says that's not enough for him to resign. He will continue as Prime Minister. Your thoughts?
Well, to be honest, I think it may come down to a vote of confidence in the House of Commons. It may just be that, you know, Lord Stammer may just, the Labour Party may be forced to table a vote of no confidence. Yeah, it's likely the Prime Minister could win it because Conservative MPs will rally behind their leader. But at least the point will have been made that, the House of Commons objected to this and passed the vote of no confidence, or, at least had a vote of no confidence. So even if the Prime Minister wins it, I think he'll be sufficiently chastised to know that what he did was out of order.
Boris Johnson has apologized. He acknowledged he was at the party on May 20, but only briefly. And that was to thank staff before going back into his office. He said 25 minutes later that he spent 25 minutes at the party and then later left to continue working. He even called for top civil servant Sue Gray to continue her investigation. He made the apology to MPs, but it also goes, without saying that this is an apology to the nation as well. Do you accept his apology, or do you think he did nothing wrong to apologize for, or you think the apology really doesn't capture the gravity of what he did?
To be honest, personally, I would let it go if it was down to me. But the problem with letting it go is that it negates the entire COVID policy of the government. You see, COVID, we've been able to restrict COVID in the UK because of the robustness of the government policy. Those who are enforcing the rules have not given any quarter. If you found breaching it, you get sanctioned, you get fined, you get charged. Remember the health secretary, as I said earlier, we was forced to resign because he breached them, and it wasn't even, his breach wasn't as great as that of Prime Minister Johnson. So if we sweep this one under the carpet, it undermines the whole policy. And that is why I don't think the apology will suffice, because it's not just what he did personally, it undermines the entire structure, the entire health policy of the government.
Finally, opinions are divided across the country right now. You have a side already, of course. What does that predict, though, for the Prime Minister's political future?
Well, I suppose he's been fatally wounded. I mean, you look at his rating in the opinion polls, it's very low. It's an all-time low. To be honest, I think this is probably just going to be, it's kind of a swan song. He's kind of in the twilight of his prime ministerial career anyway. I just think this is probably going to be the last straw. He'll probably, I don't know, stay on for probably another year max maybe and just say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm off. Because I think he's just been fatally wounded to a point whereby his authority has been eroded. He's no longer going to have, the kind of moral strength to act as decisively as he would like to.
Mr. Kimfe, thank you again for joining me on the program.
You're welcome. Thank you.